The Biden administration yesterday carried out a raid on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Syria. This was in response to drone attacks by the Persian militia against U.S. personnel facilities in Iraq. In an article by Reuters, quote, the strikes came at the direction of President Joe Biden, the second time he has ordered retaliatory strikes against Iran-backed militias since taking office 5 months ago. Biden last ordered limited strikes in Syria in February, that time in response to rocket attacks in Iraq. As demonstrated by these evening strikes, President Biden has been clear that he will act to protect U.S. personnel, the Pentagon said in a statement, end quote. The problem with this is that the United States intervention in Syria has run its course. And of course, back in early March, the Biden administration stated that they do not appear to be in any rush to pull out the approximately 900 U.S. troops who are in the country, relatively a small force. However, what they're trying to do is stop a resurgence of the Islamic State in a rush to reclaim the area's oil fields by Syrian President Bashar Assad and his Russian Iranian allies. However, it's been the Soviets and the Iranians who have been the main antagonists against these Salafi-backed militias like Jabhat al-Nusra, Dar al-Salam, and the Islamic State. The United States, back in 2012, conducted an operation which was backed by the CIA, Lebanon, and Israel. It was called Timber Sycamore, in which the CIA and the Saudis, as well as the Israelis, were training and funding the Salafi organizations in their quest to overthrow the Assad government. And it's no secret that Israel would assist members of Jabhat al-Nusra in nursing their injuries at Golan Heights hospitals. This is not speculation. This is for the public record. Richard Ford, who was an ambassador to Syria during the Obama administration, called the U.S. strategy in Syria deeply flawed and said Biden should withdraw the remaining troops who have helped the Syrian Democratic Forces, which is a Kurdish-led militia, which carve out a semi-autonomous enclave in the country's northeast. Syria is a very complex situation, but it's not just the Biden administration. All you have to do is go back to 2018 during the Trump administration, in which he says that the U.S. is going to take all the oil in Iraq and Syria. According to a ABC News article on October 28, 2019, quote, Trump has a long history of calling for the U.S. to take the oil in the Middle East, but any oil in both countries belongs to their governments, and according to U.S. law and treaties it has ratified, seizing it would be pillaging, a technical term for theft during wartime that is illegal under U.S. and international law. We're keeping the oil, Trump said. I've always said that. Keep the oil. We want to keep the oil. $45 million a month. Keep the oil. We've secured the oil, end quote. So basically, it's not about geopolitics. It's also about the fossil fuel industry. It's about supporting these Salafi-backed organizations by using the intelligence services to help overthrow the Assad government, which would then help the United States allies, specifically the Gulf, led by Saudi Arabia and, of course, Israel. Both have lobbies inside the United States, and both have vested interests in both the Democratic and Republican parties. As you could see, even with Trump, under Biden, under Trump, under Bush, it doesn't matter. The goals regarding the Pentagon or the War Department are the same, and they act as one party. The situation in Syria continues to depreciate over time, and it's a miracle that the Assad government has basically thwarted off the U.S. in itself, backed by the Gulf and Israel, and that's basically because of their allies, which are Iran and the Soviet Union, Russia. And you wonder why we have this antagonist political uh, diatribe coming out of the legacy media when it comes to Iran, calling them the purveyors of international terrorism or the greatest supporters of international terrorism, which is not the case. Saudi Arabia is the purporter of Wahhabi backed terrorism. They're the ones who support and fund and are the ideological uh, backbone of groups like Islamic State, Al Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, Boko Haram, Abu Sayyaf, Jaish al Islam, the groups that exist in the Arabian Peninsula, Southeast Asia. And these groups are basically covertly funded by the intelligence arm, basically the CIA and the Mukbarat, or the Saudi Makbath, or the General Intelligence Directorate, as well as the Pakistan ISI. So I would say that the whole situation in Syria has been a disaster, and that the United States should find it in their whatever heart that they have left to pull out U.S. troops in Syria and to leave the Assad government alone.